Welcome to Startup Stories, where we go behind the scenes of some of the most interesting and innovative tech startups in the world. Each episode will bring you in-depth interviews with entrepreneurs and business leaders sharing their personal stories on success, failure, and everything in between. So whether you're an entrepreneur yourself or someone that's just generally interested in the world of startups, then Startup Stories is the perfect place for you to gain insight and inspiration into some of the most exciting players in the game. So sit back, relax, and join us on a journey of startup stories. Hi, Elliot. Thanks for joining me on the Startup Stories podcast.
Hey, Jordan. Thanks a lot for having me.
My pleasure. So for those listening, can you give them a brief introduction into who you are?
I'm Eliott Jabès, CEO of Stockly. I've started the company in Paris 5 years ago. So actually we're celebrating our birthday next week with a big party. And what Stockly does is that we allow e-commerce websites to exchange stock in real time so that they can better serve their customer. So typically, as a consumer, if you want to buy a product on website a.com that's not available for sale, thanks to our technology, the website a.com can sell it to you, and automatically the order will be dispatched to another retailer of the network who will ship it directly to you. So yeah, basically that's it, and very happy to be here.
Thank you for the introduction. And you know, for a founder of 5 years as well, you look very young. How old are you?
I'm 28, turning 29 in 2 days.
Yeah, so it's definitely very young for a founder of 5 years. I'm looking forward to uncovering a little bit about your story and to actually getting to know the person behind the business. So the best way for me to do that is to go back to your childhood. So can you tell me what life was like growing up for you from your earliest possible memory?
Yeah, of course. So I was born and I grew up in Paris, in France. Life was quite easy, very happy in Paris. I was in a public school. In France, you know, public school is really cool. We're very lucky in France because the public schools are really, really good. At least you can find good ones. I always were a good student. I didn't have so much problem on that. I have one older brother who's 2 years older than me. We grew up together. I'm not very close to my family, but still I grew up happily. And after high school, I was not working a lot during high school because it was not so. I think it was not so complex, and I was lucky. It was quite okay with the amount of work I was putting. But I wanted to challenge a little bit myself. So when I finished my high school when I was 16, 17. I was a bit early. And I wanted to be a bit more challenged intellectually with being humble. I don't mean that I was too good for high school, but just wanted to study a bit harder and try to challenge a bit myself. So I did what we call in France prépa. I don't know if you or the listeners are familiar with that, but prépa in France is like 2 years that you spend after high school. It's like 2 first year. It's equivalent of 2 first year of university, but it's super competitive. Not in a bad way, but I mean it's super demanding. So I did the engineering prépa, and for these 2 years you prepare a competitive exam to join the best engineering schools in France, like Polytechnique, Centrale, Pont, Mines, etc. Like all the best engineering schools, you have to go through this system to go to them. And it was amazing. I really loved it because so I was learning math and physics mostly. Super challenging intellectually. I met amazing teachers, and I met there my co-founder because I was not so smart after all, because when I was in prépa I was like in the worst students of the class, and so a teacher matched me with the best student of the class who were Oscar, my co-founder of Stockly. We studied in prépa for a year and a half, 2 years together, prepared the exams together. We both joined the school that we wanted to join. We were both quite successful at he was of course more successful than me because he went to the highest research math school we have in France. That's called ENS, École Normale. which is super selective. They just take like 50 students each year, like it's very extreme. And so did my study in Paris, lived a bit abroad a few months or so, and worked for a year. And after that, when I wanted to start a company, basically I called Oscar. I told him, okay, we worked super well in Prepa together. I want to start a business. Let's do it together. I know you're the good match for me.
Excellent. That's a good little run through of where you are today. I'm really curious, like, you know, whilst that's nice to hear where you've got to today, but I really want to uncover, you know, how would you have described yourself as a child/teenager?
I was curious. I always was curious. As now, I think I'm still a teenager. You know, I think you always remain a teenager. You know, I'm still. I'm currently wearing sweatpants. I just went back and forth to the office in bike in bicycle. So I'm still a teenager, and I'm still the curious boy I was. I still want to learn a lot. I want to have a healthy relationship with my friends, which was already something very important for me when I was a kid. So now it's maybe a bit, more wide, because I have my friends, I have my coworkers, I have my girlfriend. You know, you have more diverse relationship now compared to when you're a kid. But I think it's important to keep always the same spirit, especially when you start and run a company. I try to remain as genuine as possible, keep the child spirit that I had of being a curious kid who wants to learn a lot and do impossible stuff.
Do you think that curiosity is a key attribute to have as a founder?
Yeah, definitely, because without that, it's very hard. Like, you need to be super open-minded and super curious, because if you're not curious, it's very hard to dig deeper in the market, to understand really your customer's problem, to understand how your market is structured. If you're bored very easily with the information that you have around you, if you're bored with when you start digging about a problem, I think it's it's almost impossible to build a reliable or a relevant product. So for this, yeah, definitely, I think especially in tech companies, but even in all type of companies. For example, if you build a consultancy services company, we say that in English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like same. You need to be a very good listener. You need to be super comprehensive to the problems that your customer have, and this, I think, it's a lot well summarized in the word curiosity.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I was just curious to hear what your opinion was. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So growing up then, was there anyone in your life that had a big influence on who you are today?
Yeah, of course, many people. The first one is Steve Jobs. No, I'm kidding. The first one is my mom, of course. So I'm very close to my mother. She also started the company 30 years ago. She grew her company from 0 to 1,000 employees.
Wow.
With having 2 kids that she raised. My father was here, but she was really the main character in my teenage years. So yeah, I grew up seeing my mother taking care of me, bringing me everything that I needed on a daily basis. Of course, my father as well, but yeah, for this on this side of entrepreneurship, I think my mother was really a huge inspiration, and seeing that you can do anything, everything is possible. You can raise kids, be super successful businesswoman in a world where 30 years ago it was not so easy for women to be taken seriously compared to now, and still we have tons of progress to do still. But yeah, definitely she's the key player in the example that I've seen around me.
Has that always been in the back of your mind to want to replicate building your own business like your mother? No,
I'm not sure. I think it was quite natural. I think my parents have educated me in a very open-minded way, and I'm super grateful for that. My mother and father always explained me that whatever my choices were or would be, they would always love me, and so I always felt super free about what to do. Of course, I also had a strict classic education where there were rules I couldn't do, even if I was the second one and the last one of the brotherhood. So usually it's a bit more chill for the second one. You have less rules, but still, it was not a freestyle, but. I felt very free, so I was never having a plan in the back of my mind. I was just moving forward in trying to learn during my studies, trying to do stuff that I felt good and comfortable with, and that I felt happy with. And so it was quite natural. Like when I finished my studies, I had just worked for a year, and it was quite natural. I didn't want to join like a big consulting firm like my friends from school did, or like a big GAFA or something like that. So I just started on a project, and I liked it, so I continued, and now 5 years later we're here.
That's very interesting. So you talk about feeling completely free. There was no pressure. It just became naturally. So would you say then that you've always had the characteristics of an entrepreneur, or would you just say no, it just sort of came to you naturally and you thought of this idea and then it just became that?
No, I think maybe it's hard to say for myself. Maybe you should ask my mom during the next interview. But I think probably that my people around me could have bet that I would have built my own business. Maybe I will do other companies later, maybe not. Maybe I will keep Stockly, continue building Stockly, hopefully for the next 30 years, and I'm super motivated to do it. But I think maybe it's quite of my nature. I like to build stuff. I'm not very scared of. I think it's also maybe something that's quite common to the CEO founders of companies, of startups. Is that I'm not really scared about big challenges. I'm not really scared about constraints, about people who won't let you grow because it's against their interest, about the big challenges that you may face, about all the complexity that you may face all the time, about learning stuff you don't have any clue, or managing stuff that you don't have any clue in the first place. I'm not really scared of all of that. I think I've never been so scared of big challenges. So maybe it was always there. So now I'm happy to do what I do.
Yeah, willing to take risk is the ultimate mindset, I guess, with creating a business, right?
Taking risk, but I'm not sure I've taken so much risk because I started so early. I started thinking about building a business when I was 22. I was super early. I was still living at my mother's place. I had no kids to finance or to pay fees for. I was not married. So it was not a big risk for me, So I don't want to pretend like I had huge balls. I took so much risk and went out there and put all in on the table. No, people do that sometimes at 40 years old when they have already kids, big salary in a big corporation, and I admire this a lot. For me, it was not so risky. Of course, it's risky because on the day-to-day, you you work a lot, and maybe the payout will be zero. And still today, maybe at some point the company will fail, and the payout of this will be really low, and I would have made a better financial choice by joining a big company, maybe. But that's the part of the risk. But the fact of starting so early in my life. And some people start even at 15, 16. I know people around me who started building companies or even exited with millions of euros their first company at 21, 22, 23 years old. They exited already their first company. So when you start early, you don't take so much risk in the end.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, because I remember hearing a quote that you should try everything in your 20s, fail as many times as you possibly can. In most cases, most people don't have children or married or anything like that between the early 20s, mid 20s and so on, maybe even later 20s. So it's the perfect time. And then they say when you're in your 30s, you know what you're good at, double down on that, make more money, expand and so on, and go through it that way, when obviously you can't take as much risk. So I think you're absolutely right on there. It's a very good point.
I was already quite convinced to completely align with what you said, and I was even before starting Stockley, I quite rationalized this, and I've helped creating like a student association, a student organization when I was at school. That's called Genius. That was promoting the entrepreneurship for students, saying, okay, guys, like when we're students, it's so easy to start a company because we have no financial responsibility. We're completely free, so it's the right time to try and have fun and learn by doing. And so I started this when I was at Pont, which was the engineering school I did. A friend of mine had created this organization back in Dauphine, which is another university, and a few years later we opened like 30 different schools all in France, and it became one of the biggest student organizations and promoting exactly this message.
Incredible. Can you think back to what your very, very first job was?
My very, very first job, okay, so in France, when you're don't know the equivalent in terms of grade, but when you're maybe 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, something like that, you do 1 week. You have to do an internship of 1 week, so I'm not sure it's work. I worked a bit because I did some reports, some stuff like that, so that was really my first job. I worked for a week or two in an advertising agency. It was quite cool. I remember that I showed YouTube to my I don't know to the woman who was managing my internship. It was the very beginning of YouTube, and she didn't know about it, and she was working on advertising. So I showed us. Okay, I showed her, if you want to have inspiration on videos, there was not advertising at all on YouTube back at the time, but I showed her that she could find a lot of inspiration on consumer videos. It was really cool. And after that, maybe the real first adult job, I was a bartender in the 6th in Paris, which is a very active neighborhood with a lot of clubs, of bars, and I was for a few months there a bartender just before starting engineering school.
What did those jobs teach you?
Several things. So maybe the first one is more like I was super young, but I saw that you can have an impact even when when you feel like an imposter. You don't have. I'm here, I'm 13 years old, I'm with people of 30, 40, 50 years old, and still I was able to teach them a few stuff, which I didn't come for that, but in the end I was natural, playing it naturally. Okay guys, maybe this can be useful for you, and I remember they were super happy, and I'm in touch with Katia, the woman who was my manager when I was a 12-year-old intern, and I know she still has a good memory of this. So yeah, you can always bring, like, you can learn from everyone, and you can bring stuff to everyone. I think that's from the very first experience I had, what I learned. And then the bartender, it was nice. I learned maybe a bit more about diversity, because I was in a job where I was with I was the only French speaking in the bar. They were all from Sri Lanka. I made amazing acquaintance there because the team was really, really nice. And maybe here I saw that you could work even with a couple of words. You could communicate with anyone with very different cultures if you were open-minded enough, and you had the good vibes.
Love that. I like that you said that you could learn something from everyone. Another one of my favorite quotes is everybody knows something that you don't know. So you can learn something from anyone, no matter how smart or not smart they are. You can learn something that you didn't know from that person. So you're absolutely right. Okay, so fast forward to now then. Walk me through how you founded Stockley. Like, where did the idea come from? Tell me about that moment, and why did you turn it into a reality?
Yeah, so it was after during my last year of engineering school. I didn't want to go back to Pont. It was I didn't want to go back to a classroom for this last year where I would have a teacher speaking for hours in a class or an amphitheater. Like, it was I wanted to learn on the field, learn by doing, and so I found an exchange with another French engineering school that's called Télécom Paris, which is really, really cool. It's one of the also top engineering schools, but more specialized in coding. So there, all the students code from the first days in school, and so it's more tech oriented, you know. And the school I was doing before the Pont was more about like the specialty. It was very diverse because in France it's all very like you learn a lot of stuff in engineering school. You can really choose what you want to learn. But historically, Les Ponts was more about civil engineering, building buildings and bridges and stuff like that. And so I joined Telecom for a program where I just had one class per week, maybe 2-3 hours of class during the week, and the rest I could work on a project on my side as long as I showed that I was serious and I was not bullshitting anyone. So yeah, I found this thanks to a friend who had did the same masters, who also had built an amazing company way bigger than us. That's called Yubo. It's a consumer app for teenagers and adults as well. And So yeah, I went there and I called Oscar. I told him, okay, I will have plenty of time to think about the startup idea right now, like during the coming year, because I chose this master, which gives me a lot of time. And so let's start together. Let's start, even if you're half time in the beginning, next year will be both full time. Let's go, but let's start really digging into. So we had dinner at my mother place where I was living at the time. He told me about his vacation in Egypt he just had with his family. So really, we're kids, you know. and I told him, okay, I have a couple of ideas. I want maybe to do a music app to exchange playlists with your friends. Maybe another idea I had, and the third idea is the one that we chose, was a price comparison website for shoes. I told my friend Oscar, okay, let's do a price comparison website for shoes. We both agree on this idea because we thought it was easy to test. And why this idea? Why I had this idea? Because I love sneakers, and I was bored of all my friends asking, "Oh, Elliot, where can I find this pair or this pair?" I said, "Okay, let's build a website for it so that they can ask a robot and not me each time." And I thought it was a real need. So yeah, we started like that for 1 year almost. We coded the little price comparison website for shoes with our little hands, had a few thousands of visitors, and then quite within this first 14 months of this adventure of the price comparison website, we iterated a lot. We tried many different things because quite fast in the project, we had the feeling that the price comparison business model was not one of the future. At least we couldn't project ourselves in such model, because it has a lot of problems that I can explain. But and so yeah, we tried to have more B2B approach, to have many diverse approach, and by iterating, really digging deeper in the problems that we were encountering by understanding better and better the e-commerce and the retail market in general. After maybe 18 months of iteration from a student project to a real life understanding of how retail works, we ended up on the conclusion that at least the statement that the e-commerce biggest problem is access to inventory, and the only way for us to solve it is to connect everyone and to make sure that everyone can mutualize their inventory and can take advantage of a big pool to make sure they can serve their customers. And so that's how we created Stockly in 2018.
Okay, so you founded it in 2018. It's just you and your business partner. How did you go about getting the first few hires? Like, talk to me about that challenge when you're a brand new company.
Yeah, so here after, so we started iterating in 2017, beginning 2017, like the price comparison website, year and a half, and then it lands us, we land in April 2018, after a year and a half where you're really struggling to understand what's happening, and so much information, and also, it's been a year and a half now, am I going to really start the company for real, hire people, and we're working our ass off, like we were working so much to learn, understand what was happening, and start building, finding really like what we call a product market fit, or at least the beginning of it. So what happened? What really made us pass to Stockly, to kickstarting this adventure with this new product that we thought was fitting well the market in 2018, is that we had joined already a couple of incubators, accelerators, some more useful than others, but we were contacted by Lafayette Plug and Play, which was an accelerator that was a partnership between Plug and Play, which is a big American VC, and Galeries Lafayette, which is one of the biggest French retailer, department store like Harrods or Harrods in the UK, and they contacted us because they identified us through another incubator that we have done, like a very random, but we were just two, Oscar and I. At the time, I was completely blonde, short hair. I looked like really like a teenage who just went out of holidays, and so we went there, we pitched. They liked a lot the pitch because it really responded to a business need that they had, and we joined the accelerator, which was a 3-month program, and the goal of it was to help us like really meet a lot of retailers, and in particular try to help us implement our solution with Galeries Lafayette. And so the first big retailer so at the time we had maybe 1 or 2 or 3 very small shops online that were using Stockly. It was super manual, super hacking. We were hacking all sides. It was like really fake it until you make it, and we had maybe a few transactions per week, a few orders per week, but it was a way to test really the market. And so when we saw that Galeries Lafayette was really motivated to plug Stockly, this was maybe in May, June, very quick when we joined the program in April 2018. Then we said to ourselves, okay, now we can see that we start to have really a product market fit. We can see that what we're doing is really interesting, and that we'll have. There's a risk that after we launch with Galeries Lafayette, first to deliver the plugin with Galeries Lafayette, we need a bit more robust product, and then after that, if it accelerates, we want to have the right resources to do so. So we decided to do a first fundraising. It took 7 weeks. We did quite quickly. So I was 23 at the time. So we called. We already prepared our first hire, which was she was Camille. She was with us in Prepa back at the time with Oscar, and Oscar was still in touch with her. He told me, okay, Camille, I know she's bored at her job. She's super smart. I knew her, of course, but Oscar was better friends with her than I was. He knew her better. He told me, okay, let's hire Camille. So we brought up Camille into the equation. We told her, okay, we're starting a roadshow right now. In 6-8 weeks, we'll have raised 500k, 600k, and so we will start to pay you from September. We give you, of course, equity of the company, a bit of equity, and during these 2 months, Oscar every night teaches you how to code. And so every night after all he had to do already to build the tech of the company, he was giving a few hours of coding lessons to Camille. She progressed super well, and on my side, focused on the fundraising. And after 6 weeks, I had gathered 500, 600k euro on the table. I say 500, 600 because first 500, and then we Techstars also invested in company 100k more months later. And so then we had a bit of cash to do our first hires, and in the year that followed, we went the team up to 10, 12, 15 people maybe.
Interesting. So you talked about getting your first round of funding, which was 500k, right, as well?
Yeah.
Was it at that, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but was it at that point where you maybe thought, right, I really believe this can 100% work now? Or did you always believe from the very moment you started it, this is 100% going to work?
This is tricky because you're never 100% sure it's going to work. But you need to force yourself into believing that it's going to work, because otherwise you cannot motivate people around you, investors, but in the end, mathematically, it's impossible. And everybody knows it. Like no company is 100% going to work. Even Amazon is not 100% going to work. Even Uber is not huge companies end up failing when they're huge. And in the end, it didn't work out. So it's you cannot be sure that it's going to work. What you can know for sure is that it's going to be a positive adventure for you, and that step by step it's gonna work. That's the only way I think to do it, like step by step. Like, okay, I need to do a fundraising in the coming 2 months. It's gonna work. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to apply a good method, to be surrounded by the best people, to get the best advice on how to do it if I'm uncertain about it. I'm going to convince the best investors, and it's going to happen well, but step by step. You know, in Prepa, the physics teacher who matched me with Oscar, who introduced me to Oscar at the time where we met, always said that a very complex problem it's always possible to divide it into small problems. So I think it's the same for that. You never know for sure that it's going to work out. You can just know that the next small step is going to work out, and you go like that.
Absolutely. So what would you say has been the hardest thing about growing a startup?
Definitely hiring. I'm sure everyone replies that. No?
Yeah, almost pretty much, yeah. What in particular for you has been hard about hiring?
Yeah, because it's very hard to build a very, very strong team. And today, it's so far it's the thing I am the most proud about by far, is that we've built almost a family, So people make fun of me when I say that, but yeah, I mean it. Like when I arrive at work, I'm super happy to see the people. Everyone is committed with the same values. Yesterday night we had a drink with all of investors. We invited at Stockley all the business angels, the VCs that are part of the adventure, and the feedback they all gave me is wow. Like you seem so close to each other. People seems to be in a really good mood. Super involved, and that's the best gift for me to hear that from my investors, is that we try to hire people with values that we think are important, and as well that are matching with the company's ambition. So we rationalized it quite a lot, and we iterated a lot in the process of hiring. Now it's way less painful than in the beginning, but the learning curve was definitely super intense in the beginning, because when we started we were doing mistakes everywhere. Now obviously we still do mistakes necessarily, but we're more and more confident about the way we recruit, and we see the team growing in a very healthy way, I think.
Do you operate as an entirely remote company, or are you in-house?
No, fully in-house. Everyone is based in Paris, so we have a culture where we try to find people who want to relocate to Paris, or who are living in Paris, who come to the office quite frequently. By default, actually, they have to be at the office, but we give a lot of flexibility to the managers, meaning that the manager can say, okay, if you want to work all week from home, or just come 1 or 2 days at the office. They're very free about that, but the rule by default is that you have to be at the office, so that the manager as well, when they have difficulties with a team member, they can say, okay, but the rule is that, so you have accepted it by joining it. Actually, we even explain our remote policy from the very first interview with the candidates, so that it's easy for the managers, for the team leaders to manage when someone has lower performances, or they feel that they need to be closer to the team to have more informal exchanges, or more coaching in person. So yeah, we're more I don't know if you say, but work at the office company, let's say. And we have some exceptions. We have 15% of the collaborators that work in what we call remote first, means that they come 1 week per month at the office. There is a specific budget for travel expenses when they come to the office, and they can be anywhere around Europe or in the world, and it's we do this case by case. Yeah,
no, that makes total sense. I mean, like you said, it's much better to handle problems and be face to face if you are an in-house first business, as I like to say. I also like the point you made about what's been the hardest thing about growing a startup, and what's also been most rewarding about actually seeing the team you built like a family. That's actually probably the most common response I get. The hardest thing is hiring, but seeing the team that you've built. One of my last guests said that they organized a trip to celebrate the birthday of the company, and they all went to Thailand, like 40 of them, and said it was just like a very sort of emotional feeling just seeing everybody together for the first time, because they were a remote first business. So seeing everybody together from what you've built, how hard the hiring was, it's all worth it in the end, right? Because the people are the business, not the founders, ultimately.
No, of course, and I guess it for the founder who told you that, it must have been, and even for all the team, it must have been crazy experience, because if they gathered for the first time all together after years of working, it must be insane. I respect as well our remote first company, like full remote companies. I think every company has its culture, this way of working. I just think it's important to be relevant, coherent with who you are. I think the way, maybe the product that we do, and the way, like the values we have in the company, and the way our methods of working it's more adapted to have more in-house people physically at the office. But I'm sure that there's no perfect method. It's really consistent.
Yeah, no, I do actually agree with your method, to be honest. I mean, I believe that it's possible to make it work in any way, hybrid, remote, or in-house. If I'm thinking for myself, I would like to be able to see the people I'm working with, at least majority of the time anyway, but each to their own. And I've seen businesses being very successful both ways. So yeah, it could definitely work. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So that was the hardest thing. But what was the thing that you least expected about running a startup?
The least expected, honestly, I'm sorry, but it's so hard to reply because I try not to have expectation, I think it's more a life philosophy. More and more, I try not to have any expectation. So, of course, it's my job to forecast. It's my job to anticipate what will happen. And sometimes you have unexpected events. But from a philosophic perspective, I try not to expect anything. Like life gives you what it can give you, and what you can do at your humble level is do your best, show people around you that you're a good person, be there, be here for them, work related or personally related. But yeah, least expected, I don't know, because I think the right way to do it is to not to have any expectations. But yeah, of course, you always have surprise. Maybe biggest surprise I had in a company. Maybe I will reply a bit differently, but something I couldn't imagine that would happen to me, and I was super happy, and it was maybe one of the happiest year of my life more generally, is that when we did Techstars, in 2018 when we started, I ended up in the same cohort as my best friend. So my best friend one of my best friend from school, and two of my closest friend from high school, who really I spent all my holidays with. So I introduced them to each other because I became very close to Alex, who was my friend from engineering school after high school. And they started a company together, which is called AZMed, which is AI for a radiologist, medical imagery, in medical imaging. And we ended up in the first year of both our companies in the same cohort at Techstars. And so that was insane, because for 3 months we were among 10 startups with my best friend, and after that, so we were 3 months during the program. Then we could have the Techstars offices for 3 months more, because we could negotiate for a very reasonable price to stay there. And after that, we shared our offices. We created like what we call the colloque, like when you live with your friends, but for offices, with them and another startup that we really got along with as well. For a year and a half, we shared the office together. So every day I was arriving at the office. We were a team of 10, 15 people for each company. I was arriving, working with people I liked a lot, and like the desk next to mine was my 3 best friends, and like this every day. So it was super, super nice. I couldn't expect this would happen, and it was a very, very happy moment.
Yeah, it's like 1 in a million chance, right? That's incredible. Really nice story. Okay, so has it, since you started Starkly right up till now, has it been relatively plain sailing the whole way, or have you had lots of failures to get it where it is now?
No, of course, a lot of failures all the time. All the time, you make mistakes. It's very hard. A lot of failures, and I try to be positive and give positive vibes when I tell my humble story, because I was lucky. I'm statistically, it's an anomaly that we still exist after 5 years. I'm a first-time founder. We started when I was 22 years old. In a super competitive market, super complex product. So yeah, it's an anomaly. That's why I'm grateful. I try to only give good vibes when I'm telling my humble story. But no, of course, a lot of failure. The path until now, and I know that the path ahead of us is full of very, very complex stuff to deal with. we had failures in recruitment, people who joined the team who in the end were not the right fit, and it was super hard for the team members who stayed, and even for those who we separated. Who separated from the team. We had sometimes we spent tons of time, tons of hours on deals that went nowhere, that were too complex, that ended up being just waste of time, both for tech teams and for business teams. We had sometimes some complex situations to deal with some brands. So yeah, it was a lot of failures all the time, but yeah, that's really part of the thing, you know, like you have to accept that and to learn from every failure and make sure that, okay, how not to do it again, how to make sure that even internally, I don't know, there is a miss of process, someone or a process is not designed well, and it frustrates a lot of people because the work was done for nothing, or maybe it could have been done 10 times faster if an internal process was better designed. This is definitely a failure because you create frustration for everyone. So yeah, in the end, the only thing you can do is keep a positive mindset about that. Try to teach everyone, okay, how not to make the mistake again, how to redesign things better. Let's not be lazy and say, okay, it won't happen again. Let's assume it will happen again, and how to make sure we can make it happen better the next time the same problem occurs. So it's always about reacting positively to the failures. But yeah, definitely we had tons.
It's actually really nice to hear that, because I feel like when you talk with some people that are perhaps, you know, wanting to start a business and that sort of thing, they're very, very, very scared of failure. But as I've learned from many other people that I've spoken to, that you have to fail so many times, countless times, from starting the business to running the business. And they, as you said, it's part of the business, and it is what makes you and defines you and allows you to improve and get better as a business as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can only agree with that. And it's normal to be, you know, as well. I don't like so much because sometimes you can read online so much brainwashing about failure is good, failure is amazing. No, it's normal to be afraid of failure. You should be afraid of failure. Failure is terrifying. Like you put your name on the table, say, okay, I will do that, I will manage to do that. Come on, guys, do it with me. Of course, you should be afraid of failure. It's terrifying. You're saying everyone you're going to do something, and then, or maybe you have no reliability. But, personally, I think I'm someone. One of my main characteristics, I'm someone super reliable. Okay, when I say something, I commit to it, and really it hurts me if I don't, even for something really not with very low importance. But I tell someone, okay, I will do it. I do it, or I do my best really to do it. So. Most people are like that. When you commit to something, you want to do it. So it's normal to be terrified of failure, because when you say, okay, I will try to do this, you don't want first to appear like a loser to everyone, and secondly, you don't want to disappoint people. So you should be afraid of failure, but that's part of the game. Like it's not, you should not be paralyzed by failure. No. But it's normal to have a little scare inside of you, and it's important not to make any abstraction of it. You should play with it, live with it, take it as a force, you know, saying, okay, I don't want to fail, so I'm going to use this as a big strength to make sure I will do my best, I will give my best, and in the end, make sure I can do great stuff. But at the same time, I think it's not the right thing to ignore it can be really scary. It's important not to ignore it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something to obviously, you know, be scared of. It is terrifying, but on the same note, I always believe that any failure that I've faced, something better comes from it, because you learn what didn't work or what won't work anymore, and you adapt and you make it better. And I've always found myself to be much more successful after the failure every time.
No, you're right, and also the failure reminds you that you're just a man, and that in the end you cannot always win. You know, you cannot always win. Sometimes the door is closed. Sometimes it's not the right timing for you, and it's also failure. It's also a very good way to teach anyone humility, and that's a very important value to be happy and to be successful. So I can only agree with you.
What are your long-term goals and ambitions for Stockley? How far do you want to take it?
I really want to go big with Stockley, so I don't want to lack humility by saying this, but it's at least the ambition. Like we really try to have a mindset where we always process stuff as if we were 10 times bigger. Like all the process in the company were over-structured, definitely. We always structure like even the communication between the teams, the way that the different teams interact with each other, the process we have inside the company, the onboarding, the offboarding processes, like everything we have in the company is designed as if we were 10 times bigger, and that's really part of our culture, because we hope and we think that we're still at the very beginning of the adventure. We want to go big in terms of year. I'm not afraid of at all to work all my life at Stockley if it's still an amazing adventure like that. I'm not at all obsessed by exiting fast and taking my money and going to an island peacefully or building another business to build 10 business in a row. I don't care about that. I want to build something big, something that changes the world, or at least the retail in Europe, which is already a big challenge. But yeah, we really want to go big. After that, we'll do our best. We'll try always, of course, to respect also the economic interest of the shareholders and the different stakeholders of the company, because I'm not alone in that. It's not like it's more a company is more like a democracy than that you just navigating in your own boat by yourself, and that's good. So yeah, I want to go big, but as well we'll still try to remain down to earth.
Where does this drive to want to build a big business come from? Tell me what you're like. What motivates you to get out of bed in the morning? Where does this come from?
I think I really want to make a difference in a market that I think is here for long. I think the retail market, people will always have to buy stuff and sell stuff. A lot of people live thanks to this business. Many people around the world live and feed their family thanks to retail, which is a very big industry in general. I think there are a lot of things to improve, both for customers, for business owners. There's a lot of stuff that can make their life better. And so yeah, going big to me is making a huge impact on an industry that needs that. I think in the end that the retail world needs a Stockley. If it's not us, it's someone else, but in the end I'm sure there will be a central or decentralized, but I mean way for any e-commerce website or any retailer to have an infinite access to inventory, to have to seamlessly use the inventory of other retailers. So yeah, growing big for me is having an impact at a big level on something that I believe that will happen, and I want to be the one impulsing the change.
Okay, and last question: if someone listening right now was thinking about starting a business, what's the one bit of advice that you would give them?
I think the advice is in the end. Go on the field, try things for yourself. Of course, listen to people because you can learn from anyone. As we both said earlier, it's something we need to remain always humble, listen to people, and don't think we know everything. But in the end, if you want to build your business, you know the truth, you know your truth, and you need to listen to it. And you need to trust your gut, trust your conviction, and move forward. And I see many people sometimes taking a lot of time to start really testing the product because they want to do so many interviews or so many speak with so many advisors. In the end, the reality is on the field. So test, like fake it until you make it, even if it's a very cliche sentence. But yeah, the best way to start your business is to start for real, solving a very concrete problem with your little hands.
Thank you, Elliot. Appreciate that very much. It's fantastic to learn all about Stockley and where you want to take it. I for sure will be following it from afar to see how far you really do go over the next year, watching from afar. But I wanted to say thank you so much. It was so great to learn all about your ambition, your lifestyle, and your business.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Really, really cool to have this chat. And very happy to have you around now that we know each other. I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to this episode of Startup Stories. I hope you enjoyed hearing from our guests and learning more about their journey in the startup world. I'll be back soon with another exciting episode featuring a new guest, so make sure to subscribe to Startup Stories so you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media for updates and additional content. And if you have any suggestions for guests or topics you'd like to hear about, please reach out to me. And as always, I appreciate your support and feedback. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.